90.3 WHPC now presents Law You Should Know. The law affects every aspect of our lives, our home, our jobs, and our recreational activities. Now, learn about the law and how to protect yourself against the loss of your liberty or property, and learn how to stand up for your rights and seek compensation when you have been wronged. Your host for Law You Should Know is attorney Kenneth J. Landau, a past dean of the Nassau Academy of Law, and frequently lectures to lawyers on ethics and avoiding problems with clients, and to the public on how to choose and use lawyers. This is Law You Should Know on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Hi, this is Ken Landau, and welcome to Law You Should Know. Today's program is important to us all. It's about traffic tickets. What to do if you get one, what are some of the reasons you might get one, and we'll also talk about resolving them and dealing with fines and points. Our special guest is Judge Elizabeth D. Pessala, and she is a hearing officer at the Nassau County Traffic and Parking Violations Agency and also Associate Village Justice in Westbury. And she is originally a graduate of Nassau Community College before going on to her higher education. Welcome to Law You Should Know. I know traffic tickets and resolving them are very important to everyone. And so what are some of the more common reasons that people get traffic tickets?
Well, first of all, welcome. Thank you for inviting me here. Basically, Nassau County has about 1.2 million people. And although they aren't all drivers, there are a lot of drivers. And a person can receive a traffic ticket or a parking ticket from basically two groups of law enforcement officers. If you drive badly or in violation of something in a village, villages may have their own police departments, and you'll get a ticket from the village police, or the Nassau County precincts will cover that village, and you'll go back to that village to answer the ticket. For the other parts of the town of Hempstead, town of Oyster Bay, town of North Hempstead, the Nassau County police officers will issue the tickets, and you'll go to, we have a new courthouse now. It's not in Hempstead anymore. It's in Garden City, right off Old Country Road, and it's the site of the old Department of Motor Vehicles. It's a beautiful, brand new building.
And the ticket, of course, will tell you where to go and what the deadline is and
Correct.
and how to plead it, not guilty by mail or resolve it by mail.
The tickets nowadays by law, and again, it's the New York State Vehicle and Traffic Laws, what is the body of law that determines how you're supposed to drive in New York. The tickets now are greatly improved. They have what's called a supporting deposition, or it's a statement by the police officer giving a little bit more detail about why he gave you the ticket. It gives you where to show up to answer the ticket. It gives you also describes the car, your information, and the offense that you've committed.
And we'll talk about some of the more common moving violations, what the potentials penalties might be. But let's just start with the some common equipment violations. And what happens if you get a ticket for an equipment violation?
First of all, right now, again, over the years, there are trends and so forth. Right now, for the past 7 or 8 years, and it doesn't seem have any sign of letting up, is they're really targeting people with tinted windows. It's a big, big problem. And the front windows and the two passenger front windows on the sides cannot have more than a 30% tint. And people will often get the ticket. And there is only one excuse, really, and that is if you have a medical reason. But because people were running out and getting just doctor's notes, now the Department of Motor Vehicles actually has a sticker that goes on your car. They decide if your medical documentation will give you that sticker so that you can have the tints.
And this is a New York State law.
New York State, correct. So if you buy your car from a dealer and it came that way, you've got to remove them. If you buy the car out of state and you have a New York State registration and license, you've got to remove them.
And sometimes tinting could be aftermarket, but
Absolutely.
no matter what they tell you, those
Correct.
windows can only have limited tinting.
Correct.
And that's really a safety reason for police officers?
Absolutely, right. And I try to tell particularly the young people, that they're just begging to be pulled over. That's an excuse to pull people over, so get them removed.
And what about hanging things on the mirror or on the windshield?
Okay.
Aside from an easy pass, are there laws against that?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it's called an equipment violation. So, and also with the going back to the tints, equipment violations mean there are no points on your license if you plead guilty, and that's important. People want to keep their records clean. Having things hanging from your mirror, very common. The air freshener, the whatever's absolutely not allowed in New York State. You should take them off.
And for some equipment things like a light bulb out, if you get it fixed and somehow show it to the police, will they cancel the ticket?
Okay, it used to be that if you fixed broken taillights in particular, within 24, 48 hours, it would be automatically dismissed. They changed the law, and now you've got to come in and we'll knock it down, but it's usually not dismissed. But I will go back to the tinted windows. There's a lot of ambiguity about it. With any of these equipment violations, if you go to any police precinct in the state of New York, they will come out with a light meter, and they'll check your windows, and then they'll sign a paper that you can bring into court that, in fact, your windows now are in conformity with the law. You don't have to have it, but some people, rather than go back 2 and 3 times, do it.
And if it's a light bulb or muffler,
Same
some
thing.
equipment violation, and also you can even bring the receipt with you to court.
The repair, yes,
right.
Correct. But if somebody wants to fix it themselves and they're handy that way, if you go to the police precinct, get the letter, and it makes it much easier.
Are there other common equipment violations?
Okay, then another one that we're seeing quite a bit now, an uptick in the last couple of years since the pandemic, is having a frame around your license plate. They have to see the word State of New York, but the police sometimes will pull you over just if you have a frame from your car dealer or your repair shop. But people have covers over their license plate. Big no-no, because it's technically, they think you're trying to thwart the cameras from reading your license plate. Nothing can be over your license plate. And if the letters are becoming illegible, there's a series of white plates that are, the paint is peeling off. You've got to go to DMV and get new plates.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I informally on the road, I see a lot of that. So if the plate is damaged, if the letters or numbers are worn out,
it's your responsibility to get a new plate.
And those license plate frames cannot cover any of the important information.
And there seems to be not a lot of clarity about that. They can give you the ticket even though it seems like nothing's covered, but you're better off just taking them off. Now, since the pandemic, and again, a lot of people with certain high-end cars or certain kinds of cars don't have brackets on the front bumper. And they'll go pick up the car at the dealer or at their used car lot, and they're on the way to the mechanic to have them drill the front brackets on, and they get a ticket because you need to have the two.
And you really need to have two
front and
plates,
back.
and they can't be on the windows.
Cannot be on the dashboard, or taped in the back. Right. Again, you'll be pulled over. But there have been many scams, and there's all sorts of things going on they want.
And just to clarify, the plastic covers, which some people feel are used to defeat bridge tolls or something, those are a no-no, can lead to a fine. Correct.
And those are very common tickets that are being given out nowadays. Yeah. That's when you go to court.
Okay. And we'll talk about what happens when you go to the court in a subsequent program, and what the best about negotiating the tickets and things along that line. So what about insurance violations? What are some things that can cause insurance violation, and how can you try to resolve them or prevent them from happening?
Okay, this is something pretty important, because when the police pull you over, they park behind you and the lights are on, and it's sort of an unsettling event. I say this in particular to all drivers: don't unbuckle your seatbelt until the policeman comes to your window, because if you unbuckle it, particularly some people keep their wallet or their insurance and the registration in the glove compartment, and you want to reach over, you unbuckle your seatbelt, you may very well get a ticket for not having a seatbelt. So keep the seatbelt on till the police officer comes to the window and asks. Usually he'll ask for your license, registration, and insurance. If you don't have any of those things or any one of those things, you're given the ticket for not having them, and you come to court and you bring your license. Sometimes you dash out of the house, you don't have your license. Don't worry about it. Come to court, show you have a license, show you have your registration, show you have your insurance. The only thing is to answer a no insurance ticket. Driving without insurance in New York is extremely serious. not only does the court have to give you a very high minimum fine, the Department of Motor Vehicles will also issue up to $1,000 fine to you in the mail, and your license will be automatically suspended. But in order to deal with that ticket, you have to have a letter from the insurance company, not that little card that they give you.
And so if you have some kind of bill or your insurance is going to be expiring or you have a cancellation notice, you cannot wait. You have to immediately pay that bill, get some proof that your insurance is continuing, have some kind of legal proof with you that you have insurance.
Absolutely. Don't let it, you should overlap by a couple of days, if not a week. And some people, many people now are going to a digital format with these kind of documents. They're doing it all on the phone. And it's not always a foolproof, effective way of showing proof of insurance. I mean, it works in many ways, but there's still a paper system as well as electronic.
Let's talk about speeding. Local speed. Let's talk about the cameras. First of all, I just want to take a moment and reintroduce our guest, Judge Elizabeth D. Pessala, and she is a hearing officer at the Nassau County Traffic and Parking Violations Agency and also Associate Village Justice in Westbury, and she is originally a graduate of Nassau Community College before going on to her higher education. Let's talk for a minute about the camera cases, that are all over New York State, but especially in Nassau County, and also in a moment the school bus cases. But the camera cases, people are not happy about them. What should you do if you get one of those red light turning cameras or stoplight cameras or red light cameras?
Well, since it's a good about 10 years now, we've had cameras in non-village areas of Nassau County. I think, if I'm not mistaken, there are about 86 cameras right now in Nassau County. They're primarily for people taking a right on red without a full stop, taking a left and going through red lights. Okay, and that could be making a left turn or going straight. There's a lot of misunderstanding about these tickets. If you go through an intersection, sometimes it's like a disco ball. You see the light flashing quite a bit. That doesn't mean your car was caught. It might mean a car in another direction or something is caught the camera's attention. Two human beings look at those films before a ticket is ever issued, and I have to emphasize that because they're human. They're very forgiving. So I'd say 99% of the people, when you get a ticket, you pretty much have violated something.
And usually they'll give a link so you can see the actual videotape, which confirms what you said, unfortunately, because people may do it automatically. They may feel they can make the light. They may think they stop for 3 seconds, 5 seconds, or whatever. Yes. And that's a lot of time. Well,
the Department of the Vehicle and Traffic Law in the state of New York does not have the definition of a stop is a complete cessation of motion. They don't give a time limit, so you have to figure out a way that works for you to make a full stop. And what I tell people is, if somebody they loved or cared for, it was in front of your car, you don't want to even touch them. You want to make that full stop and then go.
And sometimes I like to just count the 3 Mississippi. But also that's true for stop signs, too.
Yes, absolutely.
All those stop signs out there requires a full
cessation of motion.
It's not rolling. It's not whatever it is. And you can get a ticket for that, and they can be expensive.
It's 3 it's 3 points if it's a police officer gives it to you. So going back to the camera tickets. So when you get a ticket, you have the opportunity to look at it. You have the opportunity to come in and challenge it. And the hearing officer sits. There's a big 40-inch screen there, and we look at it together. And sometimes maybe it's a close call. Sometimes there are extenuating circumstances. People are on the way to deliver a baby, or they have a stab wound and they're driving themselves to the hospital. I mean, there are all sorts of things that do come up. And again, it's up to the hearing officer to make that decision.
Does that camera also show the car behind you? Because if there's if that car's traveling very close to you, and you want to be conservative and stop on the yellow, I mean, there's always a chance that car behind you is going to hit you.
That is, and oftentimes the camera will show what's behind you. And again, people rarely is that ever the case. and again, I will also emphasize the fact that the locations for these cameras were not picked willy-nilly. They're based on data of where many accidents have occurred, many injuries have occurred, and even deaths. So these are intersections that are troublesome to begin with.
And also, if you're traveling behind a car at these camera intersections, you really want to stay a safe distance so you can react appropriately.
And that should be safe driving anyway. Something also, people come in, they're a little upset that there was no sign warning them about a camera. The way the law is written, the county, in an effort to warn people, they did put some signs up, but it's not a defense that there is no sign warning you about the camera.
Generally, how long is that yellow light, or does that vary by intersection? Because sometimes you need to process it. If the street is wet or there are leaves out there, it may be, you don't want to stop too short because your car may have problems and you may get hit in the rear.
In Long Island and Nassau County in particular, we have it's governed by state rules. The width of the road, the speed limit. There's sort of an algorithm, but most of ours are between 3 and 4 seconds, which is really a long time. And I try to tell, all our hearing officers tell the drivers, yellow means slow down, where red is coming.
And get ready to stop if you can.
Yes, exactly. So, we all try to maybe run yellows, and I think I myself have stopped. My driving is much more conservative because
that's
of that.
the best practice. And if you're behind someone, assume they are going to stop or slow down on the yellow.
Yeah. Technically, you should be behind the white line for making that right on red or for stopping at a red light.
Now, if you stop, but let's say you're 2 feet over, is that going to trigger a ticket as well?
Well, it depends. If you're in the intersection, and that's where the human beings looking at it the camera will go off and it will go to the main computer. But then those other humans will look and decide whether you're in the intersection, so you're home free.
and school is in Nassau County. Are there devices at schools?
For a very short time, every school district got one camera and was photographing drivers that were going beyond the 30 or the 15-mile speed limit. And there was such a hue and cry about it that it was ended so they could study it a little bit more. And so that's still under consideration. But my goodness, the response, the thousands of tickets showed how people are just ignoring school.
Right, because people tend to accumulate those tickets.
Well, not only that, but people don't even pay attention to those school crossing limits. And I remember one defendant saying that his sibling was hit by a car in front of the school 20 years earlier, but he was still angry he got a ticket for speeding in front of the school.
Okay. And school buses have, or maybe getting cameras on them. Of course, passing a school bus is very dangerous and it's a very expensive ticket.
Correct. In the town of Hempstead, they have a pilot program going on now where some school buses have a camera. And again, human beings are looking at it. That's a very expensive ticket, but there won't be any points, but it's just a high money fine. And again, it's shocking how many hundreds of tickets. And these are neighborhood bus stops, and people in their own neighborhoods are just zooming by the buses. It shows that it's really needed.
And the stop signs are out there. The red lights are flashing.
And the kids are right there on the street.
And now you're going to be on video. And it's a very expensive ticket, many points involved. And we will be...
No, the camera, there's no points.
On the red light, but passing a school bus, there are points.
No, not if it's by camera. And that's the trade-off, that it's all or nothing. And so there are no points... because it's not personal to you.
A police officer has to observe it.
Correct, because it's to the driver of the car is responsible for the ticket.
Okay. But if there's a police officer there...
I mean, the owner of the car, I'm sorry.
If there's a police officer there, you can get a ticket.
Oh, then it's a lot of points and a lot of money.
And it's still going to be a lot of money if you get the school bus camera.
It's $250, yes.
Okay. And so if you get it, any other issues that you wanted to mention where people get a lot of tickets and...
Yes. I think, believe it or not, the people driving without a seatbelt has really dropped. Okay, that's there. I think there's been a significant public information about that, and
what about cell phones? What about cell phones?
Cell phones, and the other thing that's recently new in Nassau County is the HOV lanes. Most drivers, when we took driver's ed, they didn't exist, and there is. We call it the trifecta. You can technically get 3 tickets for swerving from the HOV lane out to your exit. and likewise going from the far right lane over to the HOV lane, because you're crossing double lines, you're ignoring signs and so forth. It can be up to 8 or 9 points. So that people have to learn to read those signs very carefully, not about having 2 people in the car, but crossing those lines to get out. Okay. The other tickets you were talking about was speeding?
Or cell phone.
Cell phone. Okay. Cell phone, it's called an electronic device ticket. So it can be a walkie-talkie. It can be a cell phone. It can be a GPS machine. Very, very serious. It's 5 points on your record. It's very expensive. And
so if you're holding a GPS, that's the crime?
It's an electronic device, yes.
Okay.
It's called a distracted driver. So that's the concept that they're trying to avoid. And of course, texting is really what they're
right. So you don't want to be holding or really touching or using any device.
Correct. And at night, at night, the police officer can see you because it's lit up. They can see you 3 lanes over.
And it's a very unsafe practice and a very dangerous practice because of distracted driving. And people are distracted enough just talking on the phone.
Correct. Yeah. So that's something, again, the vehicle and traffic law changes along with technology. And
that is a very expensive ticket. It involves points.
5 points. And remember, 11 points, you lose your license. So, that's a heavy-handed ticket, and it is very expensive. Yes.
And that's, and people, especially young people out there, should remember that they...
If you plead guilty to something with points, like going through a stop sign is 3 points, speeding, the points depend on how fast you're going. After you pay your fines, if you take a defensive driving class, your 2 to 4 points can be removed. But now many people take that class to reduce their insurance, but you have to take the class after you pay all your fines. And I think you're allowed to take it every 18 months, so you have to...
And some people do try to postpone their going to court so to slow down the accumulation of the fines?
No, that really has nothing to do with it.
Okay.
Yeah, in Nassau County it doesn't. In some other jurisdictions, stalling, from what I've heard, sometimes can work in your favor, but not in Nassau.
Okay, and we'll be talking about how to deal with the tickets and different plea bargaining, if that's possible, and trying to remove points in our next program next week, or available on the Nassau Community College website. Any other do's and don'ts for people who get a ticket? Obviously, you never argue with the cop. You never show them a business card or argue with them. What's the best tone and posture to take?
I think, as I said before, you wait till the officer comes up to your window. It could be something that they've pulled you over for that is actually a health or a safety issue that you weren't even aware of. And be very respectful. Of course, you're entitled to ask, why am I being pulled over? And if you feel that you weren't treated properly or respectfully, the officer is supposed to have his name and his badge number, and there's nothing preventing you from taking that down and calling the precinct. How will they ever know that this is happening?
What about lights? When are your headlights supposed to be on? And some cars have day runner lights, some don't. It's always good to put them on earlier to make your car as visible as possible.
Correct. The thing about the lights, most cars, it automatically goes on. And, of course, if it's foggy or in that dusk and dawn time, people are sometimes ambiguous. But there is a problem where some people, they jazz up their car and they have the very strong halogen lights. And they're getting tickets for having as if they're having their brights on all the time.
And you certainly don't want to have your brights on.
No, and that could be dangerous.
And I think some people disengage the automatic feature of lights, and
the running lights,
and they don't, or even the headlights. They just shut it off for whatever reason, and they just don't put them back on. And sometimes they don't realize they're driving without the headlights.
And again, it's at that dusk time or at dawn, and it's important that you do have your lights on. It's a cue to other drivers.
And again, on the behavior, just accept, try to have a conversation with the officer. If you didn't understand what you did, you could say that. If is it good to say anything in mitigation, but nicely?
Again, if you're bleeding or if there's some extenuating circumstance, you should, by all means, in a respectful way. And I think most officers are perceptive if they see, crying or bleeding, or there's somebody about to have a baby or something. What the situation is.
But yelling or trying to intimidate the officer, that's not going to get you anywhere.
It's going to be extremely counterproductive. Yeah.
Okay. And the tickets, we're going to talk about it in a subsequent program, but the ticket is going to have a deadline on it. You want to...
Yes, you want to respect that. You, of course, usually, if you're coming to traffic court in most villages, you need a little bit, a week, 10 days, 2 weeks for the ticket to get into their system. So going right away the next day to pay it may not be able to be done. But you should not go after, you want to do before the due date.
And the ticket will give you some means of adjourning it, or you should go in advance and try to adjourn it if you can?
Okay, well, that depends. If it's a village, you can just call up the village clerk and ask them what their procedures are. Some want it in writing, some will just do it. In traffic court, usually if an attorney, there's a procedure for it. But if you're just a regular person, you can first call up and see if you can do it on the phone. Otherwise, you can write or come in person is always best.
And if it involves many points or potential many fines, sometimes it pays to have an attorney who's versed in that area of the law.
Yes. Again, in traffic court in Garden City in Nassau County, I have to say that whether you come with an attorney or not, you pretty much get the same resolution. However, there are some people, remember, at 11 points, you may lose your license in 18 months. If some people are near that danger period, or many people now are in the gig driving, or they're driving professionally, and they're licensed, they can't even have 2 points. So it's important that maybe an attorney is
and it might disqualify you for certain jobs involving
Absolutely.
Driving.
Yes, and we've had people entering the service or for whatever reasons, again, occupationally, cannot have any points on their license.
And you want to clear it up, whatever it is, on a timely basis. Sometimes it may pay to use an attorney or see if you can work it out with the court. And sometimes the court may give you more time if you have to resolve different issues or
I will
get
say,
money together for a fine.
There is one other little thing. It doesn't involve points, but it's sort of an aggravation. We have sometimes people coming in 8-10 years after they paid an equipment violation, and we don't keep the receipts. So it's very important that you keep, when you've paid for your ticket, take a picture, save it on the cloud, keep the receipts, because they do pop up in credit reports years later. And because we have people coming in to resolve them.
And maybe there was a clerical problem or whatever it was, save your receipts.
Absolutely.
Forever.
For a long time. Yes, exactly.
Okay. I'd like to thank Judge Elizabeth Pessala for being our guest on Law You Should Know. She's the Associate Village Justice in Westbury. She's the hearing officer of the Nassau County Traffic and Parking Violations Agency. Keep in mind, whatever you've heard is presented as information only and not legal advice. We will have another program about once you go to court, what are the procedures there, different defenses? Do you need an attorney? Working out some kind of plea arrangements. And if you missed any portion of this program, feel free to go to the website at nccradio.org to listen to a podcast of it or tell someone else about it. And thank you for listening to Law You Should Know here on 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College in Garden City, Long Island, New York.